Hi, folks. Welcome once again to Mr. H's weekly recap. This week, we'll be talking a little bit as we preview you guys for the second half of the first marking period. And we'll also be getting you guys ready for some of the big events that are going to be happening here in the honors world, but also our Gov and Econ classes here at the high school. A couple kind of administrative notes before we get going here. Midterm is Friday, so we've been encouraging students to put in their makeup work before progress reports go out. So if you haven't seen the text or the remind, if you haven't seen your students kind of diligently working, maybe as hard as you would expect, maybe give them a little extra encouragement, maybe encourage them to look at the portal and kind of take care of any of those missings in the book. And we'll kind of, have those progress reports out to you guys very, very soon. Also next week, we'll be kicking off high school conferences here. So you're going to see a letter coming home with your students that kind of details how I'm going to be running conferences. If you would like kind of a reach out via email or phone, or if you would like to come in and personally sit down with me and talk about your students' progress, we have a scheduling site set up for you guys. So take a look at that letter, fill it out, return it. Take a look at the scheduling site, and you can see that link in the comments section below, and we'll get you guys set up as far as what conferences are going to look like. That's going to be October 7th, which is a half-day conference, and then October 10th, which is a full day and evening conference. And you can see those times that I'll be available on the letter your students are bringing home. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Gov and Econ students. This week we finished up our econ unit. We talked a little personal finance, a little microeconomics, talking about credit cards, loans, labor unions, and collective bargaining. And right now we're geared for our test next week as far as testing students out of econ, and kind of moving on to our next unit, which is political parties. This week, as we kind of end things, we're going to be talking about political ideology, these terms liberal and conservative, and sort of what they mean and sort of why they're important and significant. We're also going to be delving into the history of political parties and looking at how we kind of got the two-party system we do. All of this is going to kind of culminate in the kicking off of our mock election simulation on Monday. Students will be picking roles. They'll be electing their candidates, so to speak, to represent them. They're going to be setting up their strategies. My classes are going to be doing the U.S. Pennsylvania Senate campaign. So we'll have one class who will be playing the role of Senator Pat Toomey, another class who will be playing the role of former Secretary Katie McGinty. And so it'll be really interesting to see kind of how students attack this simulation. It's probably by far one of the most popular things we do here in the Gov department of the high school. So more on that as we move into the coming weeks in our recaps of the week. And we definitely look forward to seeing what the students put together. For the Honors World students, we've continued our march through Unit 1. We finished up the Reformation, and we've talked a little bit about the Counter-Reformation, tried to bring in some local connections with that, with the Amish and the Mennonites, kind of showing this splintering of different religious ideas and kind of histories and traditions that even affect us here in Lancaster County as well. The rest of the unit is going to be geared towards absolute monarchies, bringing in a discussion of more of a worldview than just kind of European history, which is kind of what we've been focusing on thus far. And we'll bring in kind of some discussions of the Ottoman Empire, discussions of Islam, which is what we're doing right now. We'll bring in talk of the Chinese dynasties and feudal Japan. And so a little bit more of a worldview usually provokes some interesting discussions and interesting debate. Students this week had their second round of Socratic Smackdown, our primary source document-based debating method that we're using here in class to kind of get students acclimated to what possibly some of our AP instructors will be asking them next year if they decide to go that route. This week's debate revolved around the printing press.
Any ninth grader that has not gone to the auditorium for their height, weight, and vision screening, please report to the auditorium at this time.
And on a side note, you guys can see we've got health screenings going on, so that's a fun thing going on here at the high school as well. That debate revolved around the idea of the printing press and sort of how influential that invention was, and sort of did it just influence the Reformation as we've discussed in class, or was there a broader implication there? And students are getting a chance right now to weigh in on which team in that debate they felt did the best job, presented the best arguments, and used their evidence effectively. We also wrapped up week 2 of our fantasy geopolitics season. If you want to check out some of the cool logos students have started creating for their teams, if you want to check out how your student is doing as far as the standings, you can definitely click on the link provided in comments, and you can get kind of an up-to-date idea of what your student is doing, how they're doing in the fantasy geopolitics simulation. And we keep chugging along, and we'll kind of see, which teams come out on top, which teams, maybe struggle a little bit here down the stretch. Other than that, we look forward to seeing you guys with conferences. If you have any questions about that, reach out, email, call, and we will try to get you guys situated. But other than that, we will see you guys next week.